Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our second Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week chat. Today, we are going to be talking about homelessness prevention, which, of course, during the COVID-19 pandemic is a topic that is front of mind for many of us. We had our first Hunger and Homelessness Week community chat yesterday. If you missed that, that was around stability and stabilization support services that are offered to people once they're housed. And you can find that on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. And so today I'm joined by David Gillanders, the Executive Director of the Apartment Association of Orange County, also by Victor Cow, the Vice President of Public Affairs for the California Apartment Association, and Elizabeth Andrade, the Chief Executive Officer of Family Assistance Ministries. So we are just gonna dive straight in here. Victor and David, both of you oversee apartment associations that work with many different property owners. And we know this has been an incredibly stressful time for people who've been financially impacted by COVID. Can you each share a little about how your associations have been helping to alleviate some of the stresses that both tenants and owners are experiencing? And Victor, we'll turn to you first.
Sure thing. Thanks, Becks. My name is Victor Cow, Vice President of Public Affairs for the California Apartment Association. We're one of the largest members of apartment rental housing providers. We also have a significant membership of affordable housing providers. Some of the things that we've been doing throughout the state of California is working with local communities during, especially during the coronavirus, working with local jurisdictions. In the state of California, especially in the most recent past, we've worked on landmark legislation with the governor. That's AB 1482, which is the Tenant Protection Act. And then secondly, most recently, we helped secure 2/3 approval with the Tenant Relief Act, which has recently passed, known as AB 3088. So on the legislative front, we have been working cooperatively with both local and state government to provide the
I think we might have lost Victor.
So we'll turn to me, I guess.
Victor, we will turn to David.
All right, thanks, Becks, and hopefully Victor will come back. Both CAA and AAOC have been doing many of the same things, working in tandem, especially at the local government level, to ensure that both landlords and residents are having opportunities for assistance during the COVID-19 period. One of the things that we have been very involved with is working with local city councils and city staff on rolling out tenant and landlord assistance programs here at Orange County. The ones that I think have probably gotten the most attention, City of Anaheim and the City of Santa Ana, both have what they're basically coining as CARES programs that are serving those in residential rental communities. And AAOC and CA both worked with the cities to identify what the needs of the rental property owners and operators are in a scenario where funding was going to be made available, but also working to identify what the residents themselves needed to get through this extremely challenging time. And it has been a great demonstration, I think, of when you bring the nonprofit and certain industries working with the public sector, with government, to really identify what the challenges are and finding solutions that are truly going to work and not sound good just on paper, but actually have a practical benefit to all parties involved. And I think so oftentimes, the news media will focus on the plight of those that are renting, and certainly they are the ones who are struggling each month, especially right now, to make that monthly rental obligation. But also, we want to make sure that the public is aware that the property owners themselves and the operators, they have financial obligations that also don't stop just because we're in a difficult financial position right now as a nation and worldwide. We're dealing with major economic struggles, and property taxes still have to get paid, mortgages have to be paid, utilities, all these things that fall on the property owner shoulders. So, I think working with local government, we have found some good solutions that serve both the owners and operators as well as the residents very well. And AAOC certainly stands by and ready to work with any other local jurisdiction or nonprofits that are looking to find solutions that will benefit everybody who's been affected, both on the owner and operation side as well as the residents.
Great, thank you so much, David. And Victor, I see that we've got you back, so I'd love to turn to you just to make sure that we are able to hear everything that you had to say. Oh, we can't hear your audio though, so we are struggling to hear you. We cannot hear you. I'm so sorry, Victor. So while we work on, okay. I think we heard you.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay, we're back.
Yeah, just to tag on with David had alluded to, again, we operate statewide and then here locally. Again, we partnered with Apartment Association of Orange County on local rental subsidies for renters that are affected by coronavirus. And I think in the region, the total tally is roughly $8.2 million worth of rental assistance in the region. So we've been very actively involved in advocating for reasonable accommodations for everybody. This helps both rental housing providers and renters. And we advocate at the federal level that more needs to be done to provide relief during the coronavirus.
Thanks so much, Victor. I'm very glad that we got your audio issues fixed so that we can hear you. That's helpful information. So Elizabeth, I'm going to turn to you. You run an agency that's located in South Orange County, and I know that a lot of people in our community sometimes overlook this area when they're thinking about who may be in need in our community. So I'd love to ask you, why is it important to ensure that people keep their housing, especially during this pandemic?
Thank you so much, Becks, for your focus and highlighting this important conversation today. As mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Andrade, and I do oversee Family Assistance Ministries. We are a nonprofit focused on serving the South Orange County portion of our county. And we've been around for 21 years, actually focused on prevention services. Our first client that was served was done so by a joint effort from local churches to try to prevent them from losing their housing. And so we're very familiar with the thought of prevention as an early intervention and trying to provide a reduction in people entering the homeless system and reducing that trauma. I think oftentimes South Orange County is identified as a place of wealth in relation to the other areas of the county, but it's really important to understand that we do also see pockets of poverty within South Orange County, and that there is great need in South Orange County like there is in other areas. With COVID-19, it is critically important to underscore that housing is essential. And we must work to keep people housed in order to not only protect their health, but also part of their mental health. And about half of the people that we serve at FAM are children, children 18 and under, who are in need of preserving not only housing for their safety, their security, but also as their place of receiving education. And so what COVID has provided to us is, again, an opportunity to demonstrate the effectiveness of providing a sense of assistance before somebody is in need of the services of homelessness or in the homeless system. And also just, again, to underscore that it is essential in every sense of the word.
Absolutely, and thank you for that reminder around the importance of housing and the importance of having a home. If anybody has been joining in our social media campaign this week throughout Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week, it really is reminding us of that truth that housing is essential for ending homelessness. So it's a great reminder of the need that we have to help keep people housed. So David and Victor, from the perspective of property owners, why is homelessness prevention important to them and how does it impact them?
I think homelessness is something that is a truly societal issue, and it impacts everyone. We walk, drive along the streets. Especially in the last 5 to 10 years, we have certainly seen an increase in homelessness, visible homelessness throughout our communities. Whether you're in North Orange County or Central or even South Orange County, it's there. And I think our awareness has certainly become greater as a result of the changes that we've seen. From the perspective, I think, of a rental property owner, or for an industry that provides rental housing, we don't want to see anybody not have a place to call home, a permanent safe and supportive shelter. And for us, we look at the impact it has in the communities where our members are operating their rental properties, and we want to make sure that these communities remain safe and strong. And when we start having an increase in homelessness, it's a very clear indication that there's something amiss, that something needs to be done. And as those that provide, the most affordable form of housing out there, apartments, for instance, we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to keep our local communities, strong and taking care of those that are struggling. And if we can find a way as a member of this larger community to get involved in these types of programs that are helping bring people out of the shelters and bringing them out of their cars and living on the streets and giving them a place to stay and to call home, then I think it's a very easy thing for us to get involved with, because ultimately we're in this to provide housing and make sure that people have that place to call home.
Thanks, David. I can imagine that, sorry, did you have something else you wanted to add there?
Oh, no, I was finished. That's good. Go ahead.
The joy of Zoom. So, Victor, I can imagine that for a property owner, that homelessness is not something that they would want to happen to their tenants. And so, can you help us understand sort of why, from the point of view of an owner, why is it important that we're able to help people remain in their housing, from your perspective?
As David noted, we're in the business of housing. And so that's the last thing that we'd want to see, is for someone to be on the streets. It's been particularly pointed in the last several years. I think Orange County is doing a better job in terms of addressing homelessness, as we've seen, in terms of rehousing folks, especially along the St. Anna riverbed. A lot of Orange County residents had noted that, and it became a critical point in our county. Last point in time count roughly had close to 5,000 unsheltered individuals in the county, and we're building capacity. So that's something that should be applauded in terms of a community effort. I think for rental housing providers, again, we're looking to be a part of the solution versus part of the problem. And typically, in these situations where we don't want to see someone on the streets, that's a primary focus. Usually, typically, where someone is facing an emergency is usually because of job loss or medical condition. Many of our housing providers are willing to accommodate and provide some flexibility. It's just under very extenuating circumstances where, again, that property owner, especially if they're a small mom and pop, they have a mortgage, property taxes, and other expenses to pay as well. And if you look at it from a rational perspective as well, by not housing someone, that is a loss of income to them as well. So I think when we're looking for win-win solutions, especially for things like Welcome Home, OC, that's a win-win-win solution all around. It ensures that property owners can maintain or keep up with their expenses. It keeps people housed, and it engages the entire community in terms of addressing a societal issue.
Thanks so much, Victor. For anybody who's not aware, for our Welcome Home OC program, we actually work with all three entities that are here today. And that's our program where we help people who have formerly experienced homelessness, who've got a rental assistance voucher, be able to access housing and support services to set them up for success to end their homelessness. Elizabeth, I'm gonna turn to you because Family Assistance Ministries has been doing some pretty innovative things during COVID. Too many for us to talk about right now, but one that I would love to focus in on is how you've been collaborating with property owners and tenants to help people that have been struggling to pay their rent.
Absolutely, thanks, Becks. So with the many years that FAM has been supporting the community of South Orange County to prevent homelessness, we've built relationships with our local apartment communities, with our leasing agents on the ground, those that are seeing the families come in that know their community members who are struggling. And so when somebody comes into their doors and relays the information and the disappointment that they're not able to meet their rental commitment, it's not uncommon then the property owner would call us directly. And oftentimes it's just a referral. And as far as actually calling and ensuring that that person was connected, we are a close collaborator. We want to ensure that people stay housed. I think that is really important that we highlight is the joint effort taking place. We saw about 500 households last fiscal year request assistance for rental assistance and for prevention services. And I want to always represent that by saying, 500 is a number to us in this conversation, but it is 500 unique situations of people who are struggling. And so the collaboration continues, the awareness of the resources that are available today. With prevention, it has often been the case where there are not enough resources. And I want to set realistic expectations in our conversation today, because I do believe that that's going to be the most beneficial for us all to be aware. There are more resources in the realm of rental assistance. That is because of the advocacy that has taken place. That is because of the education and the leadership at the city and the county level. And that is because of the community support to build funds to provide rental assistance. We always want to recognize that property owners, this is their investment. They are investing in property and are in the business of housing people, which we are too. And so knowing that this is a joint effort and we have the largest impact when we can continue to work together. We respond quickly to households who are requesting assistance. We've built capacity in order to do that. And the way that rental assistance works is we are looking at the financial situation of a household, whether that be a family with children, whether that be an elderly couple, whether that be a single individual renting a unit. Their goal when they signed that lease was that they were going to make that rent payment every month. And so they understand that along with all of their other financial commitments. And so the conversation never starts with how much money do you need to make your rent payment. It's what resources do you have available today, and where is there some innovation for us to have dialogue around what could be done in order for you to get back to a stable place and continue. Because the one thing we want to ensure is that with any financial assistance that's provided in order to help people stabilize, that there be a path forward to continue with that stability, continue with that investment in their housing. And so the innovation has come from a variety, from several years of experience and understanding what works and seeing that demonstrated, seeing the volume of households who are able to retain with either just a bit of financial assistance and some clear plan, and also connectivity to additional resources within the community.
Yeah, I want to add something. I think really with all the programs that are out there to provide this type of assistance, it really, I think the need for communication from the start of a difficult situation is critical. And, I think the first line of defense here is to communicate between the resident and the rental property owner or operator. And if there's a difficulty or there's an anticipated difficulty of being able to make the rent, let them know. And I think more often than not, you'll find that the landlords are going to be willing to work with their residents if they are aware of what the situation is. And, we're business people, but we're not without a heart. And we recognize that financial struggles are real. And the unforeseen situations can come up where, yeah, you may have an illness or a job loss or a loss of hours, and it's going to impact your cash flow. And if the resident can begin just by having that initial dialogue, it sets up not only a level of trust and transparency and communication, but then the landlords might have knowledge of the different resources that they could then refer their residents to. And that's one of the things that Apartment Association of Orange County is really trying to do, is to educate its members about what options and groups and organizations are out there that can be of assistance to a renter. We're going to be, in fact, doing a webinar with our members the first week of December on December the 2nd to really showcase all the different housing service providers that are out there and the roles that they play, working with United Way and Welcome Homelessness program, with the Housing Authority, and really helping them to get a big understanding of just all the different players that can help to provide much needed housing assistance when the need arises.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what David had mentioned, is that communication is critical. And as you can see, in terms of providing the resources, we've been trying to communicate these resources not only to our members, but also to tenants. And so Addie had provided a link in the chat that links to our tenant resources page that shows all the rental assistance programs that are available throughout the state.
Thanks so much, everyone, for all of that great input. So Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you, we know that a lot of people are concerned about housing, and they're concerned about how to keep their housing. How would you advise people if they're in that situation right now?
So if there is someone, if you or someone that is struggling with meeting their rental commitment, the first resource to dial into is 211. You would do that by just picking up the phone and dialing 211, and it is the countywide resource listing. Agencies like FAM and many others throughout the county are listed on that resource line, and they will do their best to connect you quickly to the nearest provider to you. Again, as I mentioned, there is no guarantee for funding at the point, but there's always an engagement portion of it. There are some resources that can be provided at the agency level that don't necessarily aren't necessarily financial. So know that you may go into it thinking that this is exactly what you need and want, but being open to the conversation and some of that creative dialogue. And it may mean having a conversation with the landlord and being guided on how to best do that, and some of the information that may suit the sustainability plan. I think that that's the main focus, is what can we do to help sustain that housing unit? So I would say invite call 211 or visit the 211 website, and from there being open to the resources that you're connected to.
Great, thank you so much, Liz, for that one. And I want to just add one other resource. 211 should always be the first port of call when it comes to resources. They have the most up-to-date, the most current list of the resources that are available in our community. But I did just want to let people who are watching this, I wanted to make sure that I passed on some information about a new collaboration. It's called the OC Housing Justice Collaborative. And this is if you're watching and you have received an official notice from your landlord or perhaps from court that's related to your housing. This is a group that's come together, the Public Law Center, Community Legal Aid SoCal, and the UCI Law Pro Bono have come together, and you can call them at 0800 834 5001. And that information is going to pop into the chat box as well. Assistance isn't guaranteed. I do need to say that, but that's another resource alongside 211 that I wanted to make sure that I passed on to people who have tuned in. And I know that all three of your agencies have done some great things to pivot and to adjust to try to help keep people housed during this incredibly challenging time. And so I would love to know, have you seen any successes from the work that you have been doing in those areas? And I don't know who wants to go first, but feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
I'll jump in, I guess. I'll go first. You know, from the time that the COVID-19 situation really started to snowball back at the end of February and beginning of March, and renters started to identify a major impediment to being able to pay the rent when they started losing hours or jobs were cut. One of the things that we immediately started working on was setting up a mechanism for helping our members establish a rent deferment program where they could then work with their residents one-on-one to figure out, okay, how much rent can they afford on a monthly basis, and then work out the details for a repayment plan over time to make up the balance. That is something that has worked very well and certainly benefited significantly for the residents when the CARES program kicked in and federal funds became available to individuals to help pay rent and other expenses. This is something that we have continued in the ensuing months, and it is working. And what I want to make sure that the audience understands today is while struggles are real and certainly people are struggling financially on a monthly basis, here in Orange County, to the credit of renters countywide, rent levels and partial or full payments have remained in the high 80 to low 90% range on average countywide. That's a good indicator that people are taking things very seriously and they want to pay their rent. They want to do everything they can to fulfill that obligation. And I think that says a lot about us as a society. And even as we're struggling, we're all trying to do the right things. And between what the renters are doing, what the landlords are doing with rent deferment programs, and providing an added level of flexibility during this time, I think it shows we're all trying to help each other out. And that's something I think we will continue to see as the COVID situation continues to play out, and hopefully we get to a point where we do have that resolution and we do have a new normal that we're able to work with that will remain consistent. But I'm very, very proud of our members who have really stepped up and worked to provide solutions and help work with their residents to get them through perhaps the greatest financial struggles that they've experienced in their lifetimes.
Yes, similarly, at the California Apartment Association, we instituted the Safe at Home guidelines, which we've encouraged all of our members to abide by. This includes rent deferral programs. Many of our members, I think we have roughly 85% participation rate, especially amongst our top members. Now, 60% of our members are small mom and pop owners. And so we've worked on rental assistance programs throughout the state. Most recently here in Orange County, the most recent one that was approved was in Costa Mesa. I think that's to the tune of roughly $850,000. Several families can be rehoused or housed with that. In terms of Anaheim, I think, David, I think it was up to about $3 million. Irvine was roughly $2 million. So in aggregate, we have about $8.2 million worth of rental assistance that are out there. And it's also about looking forward in terms of providing affordable housing for our communities as well. So several members continue to construct affordable housing. The most recent project that our members are involved with is Salerno, which is the Irvine Community Land Trust. Families Forward has a component of that. It is roughly 80 apartments that are managed, and several units are also dedicated to homeless veterans. And so I think we continue to improve upon our affordable housing portfolio in this county. And then also working in partnership with other local governments. Again, it's about building more housing capacity because aside from the impact of the coronavirus, we also have a statewide housing shortage. And so that has provided many of the issues that we're experiencing in terms of rising rents, rising housing prices in general. And so we continue to face that head on in terms of providing more housing opportunity for all California residents and Orange County residents.
I'll just say that measuring success, the visibility of prevention and the need for prevention resources has been a sense of accomplishment. We've been able to get in front of a lot of decision makers locally down in South Orange County to demonstrate to them the effectiveness of prevention. That's been one. Secondarily, we've seen about over 100% increase in the number of calls that we're receiving. That's reflective of the need, but that's also reflective of the identification that there are resources, so people are connecting. That's another success. And for the hundreds of families that we've assisted thus far, the largest success that we measure is how many children are we able to keep housed. And for that, the demonstration and looking ahead at the sustainability for that child, not only gaining access to their education, but also just having that stability during such trying and uncertain times. And so I do not want to be remiss of mentioning that very, very critical component to just our overall societal makeup.
Thank you so much. We have run out of time today. But I've really enjoyed the conversation with each of you to hear about what has been happening. So I do just, I'm going to repeat a couple of things for anybody who's watching who might be concerned about their housing and sort of the advice that we would pass on. A couple of things. The one is definitely contact 211. So you can either, and 211 is across the country. So if for some reason you're watching this and you are not in Orange County, California, you can dial 211 from your phone anywhere in the United States, and it will connect you to a resource directory. The other thing you can do is to check out your city's website. So some cities do have specific programs, and so I'd encourage you to look on your city's website and see if there's anything there. And then lastly, just a reminder about the OC Housing Justice Collaborative. If you have actually received an official notice, you may be able to help. And you can get a hold of them by calling 800-834-5001. And thank you again, Elizabeth, Victor, David, for joining me today to talk to our community about this. Thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom and on Facebook. And please follow along on social media for more updates about community chats that we'll do in the future. Thanks so much, everyone.